thudding sound of Potholes Symphony. When your vehicle joins the chorus, then be rest assured that a hole will be created in your bank account. Driving on pothole-riddled streets means you have to constantly drift off your lane. From afar, you start looking like a drunk, needlessly turning the steering wheel. If you're wondering why the government is not fixing your potholes, well then, you guessed right. It is because there is no by-election in your constituency.
You've been agitating, demonstrating, crying out to government, and even praying to government to fix your potholes. But there is one man who is praying against that prayer.
If I'm a recorder, if I believe what almost 15 years in I say almost 6 months will be a mamma and Timiana, my baby, and I'm a cosa. The bomb prices soon to say, I said, and I'm a mayor. Yes, it will be said, you become a person of a baby. I have a person, I have a year. The person, I didn't. Obviously, I'll be not of money.
With so much passion fueled by hunger, he sometimes dangerously approaches drivers and sometimes weaves in between vehicles, begging for coins to put food on the table for his family. For 3 years, he has been filling these potholes with soil on the Iran Clinic stretch, not only for the driving comfort of drivers and passengers, but to eke out 11. So would you be happier if God listened to your prayer instead? This crater is starting to take up the whole lane. A few meters away are well carved out potholes, more like asphalt or worry. They cover the entire stretch and you cannot save your car from them. So why not stop there for a game of a worry? Which office do you contact when the street is beyond pothole repair?
MP, why the answer say we road no also on road but some man Zubaga said there be young na DC is Zubaga say young na present na say some go for we mu a true say na yegua na Ghana for mondwen Ghana for say mondwen ah na say ndi obi va duan wo ni answer we say odada say go for na ma wu kwa no mu what a shock masa adwenwen gwa masa yaje we car we can pay breye so far power ma we mu.
Yes, Ghana's roads can leave you enraged. So like COVID-19, you have to learn to live with it. When it rains, the craters become river-wide, suitable for fishing. So I went for a hook and line and oh, what a great catch it was, right in the middle of the road. So, with all these prospects, why would governments cover them up? Jojo Kobna, JoyNews.
Not a laughing matter, but we look at the humor side of it in our Potholes exhibition, Ghana's Potholes exhibition. So, from the first time Kojo Yankson referred to it as asphalt amoeba, this time, guess what? Jojo Kobina was playing Owari in there. Did you see them? And he was even fishing on a lighter note. I've seen instances where in some of the potholes, people have grown maize. And they have grown to a sizable length. So what is happening? We're throwing the spotlight on our potholes. We complain about the carnage on our roads and all of that, but this is a huge, major part of the problem. Do you know the interesting thing? Just this past weekend, Friday, I used that stretch. And each time you use that stretch, getting into Adabraka or weaving towards Accra, it is a literal nightmare. So where do we go from here? Joining us for this conversation, engineer Mahama. He has been speaking about a lot of these issues. He joins us this morning for a conversation as we get into the state of our roads. Engineer Mahama, a very good morning to you, sir.
Well, good morning, sir. How are you?
I am well. What else can we say? I wish our potholes were not, the craters we see on our roads were not there, but they are. Let's start with the state of our roads and whether over time we have seen any betterment of our road infrastructure. Look at the last few years. What picture do you see?
Well, I'll say a good morning to your viewers, yourself, and your production team. Well, the roads are being constructed. As an engineer, I see ongoing projects, bigger ones for that matter. I've seen a lot of overlays. I've seen a lot of construction. But like the design life of every human being is so it is with asphalt or road network because of the constant usage of our roads. Every road has a design lifespan. In fact, when you are doing the design, you are directed as part of your scope to possibly do 15-year design, 20-year design, or 5-year design, depending on the type of furniture you are constructing, and then depending on the type of load that road is expected to carry. So, by and large, as we are doing roads, and this cut across the world, as we are doing roads, even if the roads are not even used, an ideal road will go through a certain process where the asphalt will oxidize due to the weather, and so once it experiences the wet weather and dry weather condition over time, the road will deteriorate on its own. But it will not be like you've seen potholes, like, because it's not being used. But the road will go through a certain cycle, and at the end of the day, that road will not be fit for purpose in terms of riding quality. So the more we do the roads, it means that maybe government may have to be doing more than what it's doing currently, but it's because of the monies involved. I am having a fair idea of some of the roads which are being destroyed or becoming depressed because of certain factors that I'm going to enumerate as we go on with the discussion.
So you say they are being depressed, they are being destroyed, and you're talking of these factors. But we also have to take a good look at the life of our roads, or how long they last. Which brings me to my next question. Are our roads up to global standards, do you think? Do they meet the requirements of global standards? Because you can have roads constructed in other jurisdictions that can last as long as 25, 30 years, with some maintenance, of course. Our roads last a year or two, and that's even if you're lucky. And all of a sudden, there are craters, crevices, cracks, all kinds of things happening. Where are we getting it wrong?
Well, in my last discussion with JoyNews, I think Joy FM on Wednesday, I stated that the citizenry have to be educated more on the level at which a road is before it starts to deteriorate. Now, the layman would see a gravel road which has received bitumen, which is the coal tar. And then once the road becomes black, the layman may feel that the road had been completed. Now, when you are talking about surface dress road, the one we call the sapiti, when you finish all your gravel work, the next layer that you put on the road is the primer seal. Now, this primer seal, even though it is black in nature because you are actually applying bitumen and chippings, it's just like for somebody who has just finished his building, newly constructed building, is about to start the painting. Now, when you put what we call the Andre, or what people normally call the whitewash, you are preparing the surface for the actual paint to be applied on the building. Same applies to some of the rules that people may not understand when it comes to road construction. Now, let's say JoyNews to Circle had just been graded, had been compacted with the gravel, and then the first bitumen, which is more was what is called a primer seal, had just been applied to seal the surface of the gravel. And now maybe the contractor abandons the project and leaves citing maybe non-payment.
Right.
To the layman, that is a completed road because he has seen application of bitumen and chips on it. So in that, no matter how good that road had been designed, no matter how good that road had been designed, that primer seal cannot hold the volume of traffic. In fact, even when it rains severely for some time, that road may be awashed because it is just a primer.
Right.
So until the first seal and the second seal is applied onto that road cannot be classified as a completed road. So that is what I want viewers to start to appreciate. And by appreciating, it means that when viewers or listeners within their jurisdiction see that there's ongoing construction, I think that there might be concern. People should start to ask a lot of questions so that they would appreciate any level at which their construction is being constructed. And then the contractors may also have to provide adequate information about the contract, the award of contract, the duration, the type of road, so that people may just call on whoever is responsible so they can get better clarity when some of these defects start to
Let's get some of the clarity from you, Engineer Abdullahi Mahama. I'd like to find out, so what are the different classes of roads? Yes, we know of the feeder roads, and you're talking about those that may be lined with primer C and all of that. Obviously, there are concerns. What are the different grades of roads then that we have, especially in the urban areas? Because we know that in the rural areas, especially in cocoa communities, there are the cocoa roads projects and all of that. But in these urban areas, for example, the one we're pointing to at Iran Clinic, around the Iran Clinic, what type of road is that? What then should be the level expectations of the ordinary Ghanaian plying that route?
All right. So what we have three classification of roads. We have what we call the gravel road, which mostly come under the feeder road offering, like you just stated.
Okay.
We have what we call the surface dress road, which is when you see them applying the bitumen directly onto the gravel, and they come and spread the chippings, and then they wait for maybe a week or two or a month. They come and apply another bitumen, and then spread the chippings on it. That's the first seal. And then they wait for maybe another 2-3 months or so, come and repair all the pothole patches, whatever might have developed, and then do the final seal, which is the second seal.
Okay.
That's one. The second one is what we call the asphaltic binder concrete course. So the Iran Clinic, for instance, that stretch is an asphalt road, then which is classified as flexible pavement. Then the last one is the rigid pavement, which is the motorway or any concrete paved road is the rigid pavement. Now, I stated last week that a road may be properly designed and supervised for construction. Now, a lot of external factors may cut short the lifespan of a road even after a month of construction. Now, some of the external factors is that before I get to that one, maintenance of a road is done timeously. In the event where government has not been able to realize funds from the fuel and other gas, all those taxes that are supposed to go to the road fund, if it's not realized on time and the maintenance is not done within the ideal time, there's something we call exponential depressions. It means that if, let's say we have just a 30-meter diameter pothole that should have been remedied in, let's say, June, and it's not done because of the application of load on it, breakages at the edges and water runoff and other things, water intrusion. Maybe before you come in and repair the pothole part in about the next 3 months or 6 months, it would have quadrupled the size. So it means that timeous maintenance is also key. Now, let me tell about the external factors that all of us, including JoyNews, have to be watchful and become watchdogs in our communities. Now, you will see a vehicle running on a road and it has a burst tire. Now, when the tire bursts, instead of the driver just suddenly moving outside the carriageway to park and maybe get the tire replaced, some of them will run with their wheels. The metal wheel actually cutting a very thin line on the road. Now, this thin line cuts deep into the road, and that becomes a source of worry to the road because it's going to allow the ingress of water or infiltration of water into that particular area. And once the water gets into the gravel and it doesn't come out easily and it goes through that gravel layer, the road is undermined. Secondly, when a vehicle is damaged on a road and you see mechanics working on that particular stretch of the road, removing or draining the oil and changing the oil, working on the engine on that spot. You know, the bitumen itself is a petroleum product. Now, if the oil is left on the road and it's not cleaned after or immediately, it means anytime the weather is hot, the bitumen is actually diluted because of the diesel or the fuel or the oil that has been discharged onto the road. And this must be one of the key things that moving forward, if we want to compare ourselves to the outside world, they are more educated, they are more enlightened, and then the police will come at you if you are doing that on their road, because they know that no matter how good the road is, that oil spillage on that part of the road becomes a source of worry or the immediate area that the potholes will start to generate. The third one is the unapproved speed ramps that we create on our roads. Ideally, in our communities, if all the drivers or the motorists are adhering to speed limits, which have the signposts and other things telling that you are within the community, so you have to be doing maybe 30 kilometers per hour, 25, 50. If all drivers are supposed to do that, I'm not too sure that the communities will take up the matter and start to create their own speed ramps on the road. And now the speed ramps, no matter how good they are designed, even those which are even properly designed, because of the sudden stoppage of vehicles at the approaches and the exit of the speed ramps, those places become the area where the impact is high. And once those areas start to develop the potholes, you start to see the potholes spreading to other areas when they are not timeously maintained. So drivers who are complaining are the same people that have been in the system for the past 20 years, have constructed roads which were very poor. And now when you are done, as if you have to come and beg the drivers to just use at least a bit of ethics on the road. They now quadruple their speed. And then when there's knockdowns, the communities will also not sit aloof to see that their kids or their elderly are being knocked on the road. So they start to, so these are, you see, all the potholes we have, aside the few ones that are badly designed or were not completed on time, that generate some of these things. The external activities also contribute significantly. Now, let's say a road which is always having water across it. A road was designed. In the first 5 years, there's no water standing on the road when it rains. Now you go and see that just adjoining land, an assembly had approved of somebody or had overlooked somebody to put up a building on a water channel, like what I'm just watching on TV right now. This is a low-lying area. And so any prevention of any channel by any activity outside the road would affect the road, because once water constantly stands on the road, there will definitely be a hole, just maybe one or just the size of being the diameter of even a pen. Diameter, when it allows water to actually seep through, the place becomes susceptible and becomes to heave. And once the heaving starts, sometime before those areas are identified and sent to the appropriate division or agency, the harm would have started. And like I said, I've realized that all the monies we are receiving for the road fund is woefully inadequate for even Accra maintenance of roads. And we're helping ourselves to see
I am losing you intermittently, Engineer Mahama. Just go, let's say, some 10, 15 seconds back, and if you can, repeat what you were saying.
Well, I'm saying that, so when a road is having some of these stoppages, or let me say channels are being blocked because of external factors, and we have water constantly standing on some roads, and let's say the diameter of a big pen, just a pen, create a hole on that road, that becomes an area which is susceptible to, what do you call it, depressions. And the depressions start over the year, I've noticed that not this current administration, across the monies that we are realizing for road maintenance or the road fund is woefully inadequate. The whole year's money that we are realizing from all the taxes can barely even do maintenance in Accra. So all hands must be on deck. People are having the activities that are also affecting our roads. Apart from the fact that some roads are, let me say, 1 or 2, 3 roads are poorly constructed, I have just stated that these factors, when all these are adhered to, I'm sure that we're going to have a very sustained or road lifespan for our communities.
Right. So you've spoken about the different categories of roads, from the graveled ones or the surface-dressed ones, then the asphalted roads, and then the rigid pavement or concrete paved ones. So I want to believe that the N1 and the likes of, of course, it is the Tema stretch, the Tema motorway that I know is a concrete road. We've spoken about the N1 and its quality before. Which then are our best roads in the country? And beneath those ones, what then do we have? What then is the standard that we have as a country? There's a reason I want you to get into that before I ask about those ones that we start and stop work on.
Well, if you look at the N1, it's one of the best roads we have in the country. Like obviously the motorway, we all know that has outlived its design lives. We are within about 60 years or so, from 1965 or so. If my memory serves me right, I think 1965 was when the motorway was actually completed. So it has gone through a properly designed life and now needs to be reconstructed or to be maintained or to be improved. Other roads across the country, you see the George Walker Bush Road, Jowolo Tours, Accra Girls, the Opebia to Medina Road, the Medina Adenta Road, the Adenta Oyadefa Road. These are all very good roads which have stayed over 10 years average. And so that is what I can say. And then, the pavement, the concrete roads are not just roads that are supposed to be done in any area at all. They are supposed to be in areas where we have highly industrial activities, where we expect a certain limit of weight, because you cannot, the cost of doing a concrete road is very expensive, very, very expensive. So doing it within so obviously that's why you see that the Tema motorway and the harbour area having a lot of this concrete, because of the expected load that we are getting from the
so heavy duty trucks, machinery, and all of that.
Yes.
In this instance, then, which brings me to my next question. For those roads we start and do not complete, let's go back to the Prima C laden roads.
Prima Steel.
Yes. Now,
SDAL.
Excuse me? I didn't quite catch that.
Prima Steel. SEAL. Seal.
So Prima Seal.
Yes, Seal.
Okay, I heard C. Thanks for the correction. So Prima Seal, okay?
Yeah.
Now, with those roads, for example, when construction starts and it isn't completed, I mean, I'm just thinking about what is happening to our roads. Is it not criminal then, knowing the consequences of starting and not completing some of those stretches, for us to allow that to happen? I do know that at a point, maybe the contractor will say, the inflow of money is not what it ought to be. I can't, by any stretch of finances or imagination, continue this project. But should there not then, knowing the consequences of same, which creates the cycle where we're constantly working on roads that we've been working on since the start of the Fourth Republic, shouldn't that be criminal then? What is your take on that?
Well, when it comes to the criminality, I doubt. What I think is that, you see, the contractor working on some of these roads is very experienced. It's supposed to be experienced enough. When you are doing a road construction and you feel like the next activity you are about to carry, after that, you may not be receiving money because you have actually been reminding the employer, and the employer has not shown any indication of any availability of funds at the moment. You cannot always say that because of the nature of one particular road. Maybe if government is supposed to take up something, otherwise, let's say an emergency, it has to stop and come and attend to the road. So I expect the contractors to also be strategic enough to the extent that when I am done with the gravel and I've not actually put the Prima Seal on it, I can continuously maintain the road by dampening the dust as I await the money from the client. Because if I put the Pramasil on, knowing that the cash flow has been a challenge already, then it means I'm more or less also not being strategic enough. Because, and one other thing is that he may also be thinking that maybe per the assurances or the indications, he may be getting some cash flow within the next month or two, so that as it's just done with the Pramasil, the first sale will be placed on it. Mind you, he's also working within a contract duration period, of which he wouldn't also want to be cited for unnecessary delay, which also may affect him when, if that project was an LED where after the time of construction or it has elapsed, without any proper justification, a certain percentage will be deducted from that contractor's contract sum. So these are, it's a bit a bit strategic or technical, it's a bit confusing, but we just have to ensure that we become more, more strategic as to the next layer. If I don't get the money for the next layer, what will happen? Should I maintain the gravel at that particular time and then continue with the water browser, always watching the road? The other thing is that, is it better I stop? Because if I also stop, I don't get enough water at the time to be watching the road, I may be generating a lot of pollution, and that will not also fall within the Environmental Protection Agency's baseline. And if you don't fall within the baseline, it means that the people who are living within that vicinity are those who are going to suffer most with these respiratory challenges.
Bear the brunt.
In one way or the other, the Pramasil, which may even come out with some small potholes, might be better than just allowing the gravel work. So there's one other thing I have to know. Pramasil, when it is completed, sometimes you wait for like 2-3 weeks for the bitumen to have cut back. When I say cut back, the oxidation to take place. So we're supposed to get the kerosene. You see, Pramasil, the one that I have known, we use 16% of the quantity of bitumen as kerosene. So it is mixed before it is sprayed. So within that ideal time that you have left the Pramasil to function, it's expected that the kerosene would have evaporated, leaving the actual bitumen to bond with the chippings. Now, even in that instance, or all the best road that we have done so far, you will still come within a week or two to come and make some potholes, which is expected anyway, and then you address them before you actually put on the first seal and the second seal. Now, look at the Ebri Road, for instance. If you get to the Ebri Girls area all the way to the carvers, where those who be doing the carving at Ahirase, we had a similar thing the time we did the road in 2005, 2006. You finish the Pramasil because of the volume of vehicles on that road. You expect that before the oxidation will finish or before the kerosene would have evaporated, you will miss some of these spots because it's a very thin layer. It's just like 1/4 of your nail, your fingernail, the nail itself. So you come and meet the potholes, you address them before you do the first seal. So all those other roads that may have some of these problems, I think when the contractors come back, it's about how they actually supervise the remedy works before they put on the first layer. And so obviously some of the roads we know that they stay longer because of the financial challenges, because the government's eye is across the country.
Right.
So maybe if they not push one, yeah.
I'll be coming back to you because when I spoke about criminality, it had different angles, not necessarily with the contractors because we know the situation. And I'll be sharing with you what's a caller who called into our program, I think last Friday also had to share with us, and then a contractor himself. I was speaking of it on the back of government institutions themselves, the ministry, among others, and knowing what the consequences will be if these are left for the rains to hit, for example. But I'll be coming back to you on that. Let me also introduce into the conversation Engineer David Osafo Adonting. He is Acting Director General of the National Road Safety Authority. A very good morning to you, Engineer Adonting.
Good morning, my brother.
Thank you so much for joining the conversation. I'm sure you've been following our Ghana Potholes exhibition, and you've seen the different stretches we have looked at. On the last one around Iran Clinic, my colleague Jojo Kopina was even playing Owari in the potholes. What is happening to our roads? Let's start from there.
Oh, first of all, let me say good morning and thank you for the opportunity to speak to issues that relate to growing Ghana. And I say good morning to my colleague also at the other side. And I think it's briefly and deeply put up the issues. I mean, he's clearly made all of us understand the road construction generally. I think you have done very well by bringing the issues up this time round, letting every Ghanaian see what is happening as far as our road infrastructure is concerned. We are all seeing it. Of course, we all know. We all travel around. We see what are road areas that are good, areas that are bad, the areas that are fair, and of course the potholes as you are bringing them up for discussion. To me, that is the work of the patriotic Ghanaian, to see what is happening within the sector, bringing it up for all of us to discuss it, and bringing technical people to explain why things are going the way we all see now. Roads, as we all know, is very, very, very critical economic factor as far as the national development is concerned. We all need roads. We need to travel. We need our goods to move from one place to the other. But they must be good roads. And I think that when you have good roads, then that is what you think will underpin the national economy. So I think talking about roads generally is something that we will commend you for bringing them up. And we are ready to share opinions and ideas as we move along. So we are watching. We are looking at it. We are sharing opinions and ideas technically and what have you in the interest of national growth and development.
Now, when you speak of the different dynamics and what the National Road Safety Authority is doing, specifically on engineer, I don't think engineer Mahama has been giving us some education in respect of the different kinds of roads that we have. From the standpoint of the Road Safety Authority, which of these roads are you targeting, let's say within this quarter by end of year, to deal with? Because they are also adding to the spate of accidents. In fact, that stretch that Jojo Kobina went to around the Iran clinic, I've been using frequently. I used it just last Friday, and it does quite some work on your car. So what is the plan? What are we to expect moving forward?
When it comes to roads or road safety in particular, we all know that road infrastructure is a very critical component. Now, there cannot be road safety if there are no roads. So the basic component of even ensuring safety is to have the road infrastructure. Now, roads, as we all see, we have various categories. But the National Road Safety Authority, or ensuring safety of the user, we are interested in all the categories of roads. Some gravel roads, paved roads, roads in the rural areas, cedar roads, urban roads, the trunk roads or highways. All the roads are very, very important because we are talking about use. People use them. Now, the very moment the road is interacting with human beings, we come in. And then we come in to ensure that the road is as good as can be used by any other person in a manner that he can traverse from origin to destination safely. Now, unfortunately, somehow, if you look at the statistics, we are recording crashes more on the trunk roads, what we call the highways, than all the others. In urban roads, within the urban setup, we are recording crashes. But these are crashes that usually involve hit pedestrian, motorcycling, and vehicle, and so on. But on the highway, we are having problems as regards head-on collisions as a result of wrongful overtaking, speeding, overspeeding, as we call it, and so on. So roads generally are very, very critical to us. If you go to the rural areas, especially the feeder roads, we are now recording much of the crashes there because the vehicle population is low anyway. And again, the roads are also not as good as you can find on the highways. So you find vehicles not speeding like we see on the major roads on the highways. So I must say generally, we are interested in all the roads, all the categories of roads. Somehow we try to focus a little bit on the urban roads, that's roads within the urban communities or environment, and then on the highways, especially the ones that are moving, which we call the international or the ones we call national roads, which you can say N1, N2, N3, N4, and so on. We are also very much critical looking at urban roads, especially those in the cities of Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi, that is the regional capital. So these are the areas where we record a lot of crashes. We are, unfortunately, or fortunately also, considering the situation where crashes are happening rather on the very good roads. In recent times, if you look at the statistics as we put up, most of the fatal crashes happen on the good roads, roads that do not have potholes. Now, that wouldn't suggest that potholes do not cause crashes. But as we speak, speaking by the fact, the crashes and the major ones we are recording are happening on the good roads. On the highways where you have line markings, you have good surfaces, you have good alignment, and road signs, and all those facilities are provided. I see it as a situation where if you are not careful, one may say that potholes do not cause crashes. No, they do. But we are recording crashes also on very good roads, on the highways mainly. And even in the cities, we are still recording crashes. Now, I have seen where you are talking about at the Iran Clinic area where potholes are emerging. But some of them, people call them being manholes. Of course, when people get there...
Engineer, I don't think, it's not that potholes are emerging. Potholes have been there for as long as I remember, from last year, deep into last year.
That is true. Now, somehow, when people come across potholes, naturally, they begin to be careful. They slow down. They try to maneuver. Of course, there are a couple of them that, in the course of maneuvering, they end up maybe getting some crashes head-on or running off the road. There are cases also that you can find potholes causing damage to people's vehicles, bursting tires, and causing some components of the vehicles to break up, and for that matter, causing this crashes. So I must say that they, as you said, they have emerged. They are there. They've been there for years. There are some that government comes out through the Ghana Highway Authority, urban roads and feeder roads to patch them to ensure that they become motorable. There are others that remain there for a couple of times, periods, in years, that are not fixed. But I think these are all some mechanisms, the dynamics of the road industry. As my friend said, it depends on how they emerge. In some cases, it's as a result of the construction. If you don't maintain it, you can have a very good road, but you still need money at a certain point in time to maintain. The maintenance of it is so critical that factors that are governing the use of the road are important to the extent that if you don't have money, immediate money to quickly move in to fix the pothole, you find them developing. Maybe as a result of loading, and he said it, I'm happy he said about loading. If you don't control the loading, then you are subjecting the facilities or the infrastructure to load that will break up the road before its design life. Again, if you don't have enough drainage system that will carry water away very quickly when it rains, then you are also subjecting the road to certain deteriorating factors that within a short time before its design life, you find it also deteriorating. So there are a lot of factors that are working around this, the delivery of road infrastructure. I think that what I'm interested is to have a very good road. Of course, road with a very good surface, with all the line markings, all the safety appurtenances, lighting, traffic lights, drainage system. I think this is what we want to see. Now, one that we are focusing on in the coming years is to see roads that are constructed, that provide for pedestrian use, that provide for cycling and motorcycles, that provide for lanes and facilities that will ensure that we do not have head-on collisions like we are getting in recent times. And this is where we come talking about dualization all the time. And I'm happy that we have evidence to show that if we have dualized roads, we completely eliminate head-on collision. And so, generally, we apart from looking at the city roads and rural roads, I think our major concern is on the highway, where we expect the road to be very good, the road to be dualized, all the safety appurtenances provided, so that we can protect the individual, whoever is traveling or traversing distances, long distances, and so on. And I think that is where our focus is actually.
Now, if you look at the undue delays, I was discussing that with Engineer Mahama. Oftentimes, the contractors would tell you funds are not flowing through, and so our roads are left at a certain stage. They are usually exposed to the elements, especially the rain, and the next thing you know, we lose everything that has been done. By the time the next tranche of money is ready, the road is in a deplorable state. What do you think can be done to reduce the spate of that particular scenario?
My good friend, I think our brother said it very clearly. Road is money. Road design, construction, maintenance, it's about money. It's very capital intensive. You need money to get good roads. Now, if roads are constructed, it must be strategic, and I agree with him perfectly. What it means is that there are stages. You go by the subgrade, the grade, and then the primer seal, the sealing, and these are time bound. Because if you delay in one, then you are bound to having problems on the way.
So exactly, precisely as we know that they are time bound, why would we even start when we are not ready to finish? Even the Bible says it. It's a fool who starts a project that he doesn't have the resources to complete. Why start and not finish? Is it politics? I mean, I want us to be blunt this morning, because we start so many stretches of road, we complete just a few, and that creates the cycle where we are constantly working on roads that we should have finished so many years ago. How does that make any sense?
Yes, I think I can share your sentiment. That is rightly so, because it's a very, very, somehow at a certain point in time, somebody sitting somewhere may say that you may not understand the dynamics of it. Before you take off delivering a certain road infrastructure, you should be sure that you have the money available. Once the money is available, then we can also be sure that you can deliver. That is why in most cases, all the development projects, government will go secure the funding from donor partners, for example, and then within a matter of 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, the road is delivered. Look at the Pokwasi interchange, for example, and all the interchanges that are running around. But there are cases where you project the investment to come at a certain point in time, but you would not get it as you wish. In recent times, look at the problems that Ghana we are going through now, the economic crisis. I'm sure it's made all our plans derail from our projections. You wouldn't blame anybody for that. We had plans to dualize a particular road. You start the project, and your anticipation was that monies were going to flow in as planned. Now, once something delays, of course, in recent times we have gotten many reasons from government as to why funding is not flowing from various sources. Look at the Ghana Road Fund, for example. We are not getting the projection. Now, the very moment something crops up that delays the projection, then automatically it will also delay the project. So I think these are unforeseen situations that come in at certain points in time. There are other factors like the rain. There are years that you wouldn't find the rain so severe In that case, it can also help you in your projections in terms of the construction times and so on. But there are also days that, or years that you can find a change pattern in the rainy season. In which case, you cannot deliver as planned because you'll be disturbed by the rains and so on. I think that a lot of factors come into play. That makes it impossible for you to gather the necessary resources to deliver on planned projects. It's quite complex and difficult to explain at certain times. I think that perhaps as we move along and as we interact, there may be a time that the parties and the role players and the industry players may have to share opinions as to some of the difficulties they come across when they are unable to deliver on time in terms of road infrastructure.
Engineer, I don't think, hold for me. Let me bring back Engineer Mahama. The critical role players, those who partake in this entire process, from the ministry to the National Road Safety Authority to the engineers to the road contractors and all of that. But could it be that the major point in there is corruption, which is why our roads are not living up to expectation, which is why we're not getting the quality we need? And here is the premise for this question that I am posing, Engineer Mahama. Last Friday, as I intimated, which is why I suggest that maybe there's criminality involved, a contractor called onto our show and he said he was a contractor. But he said that, look, for every stretch of road out there, minimum, if it's a 1 million Ghana cedi road, the contractor is only getting 900,000 Ghana cedis. Why? Someone, somewhere, has taken a kickback of 100,000 cedis. 10% minimum will go. Which already means that if the contractor is supposed to expend X amount of money, he does not have X amount. He has X amount less 10%. So let's say he has Y amount. Now with Y amount, he must squeeze, maneuver, and even he may not even get all the money at a go. Is corruption then, let's face it, not one of the major reasons our roads are the way they are? Engineer Mahama, if you're with us, that question was for you.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
I'm saying that I'm not subscribing to what the contractor might have said on Friday. Why? Because if it's a competitive contract, it means that document was made available and a lot of contractors tendered for that particular job. So nobody will direct you as to how to price your work. Every component in the contract is called a unit price item. So you say, I'm going to do an asphalt overlay, and every square meter, I'm taking maybe $3. You have stated that in the contract, including your profit markup on it. And I think that if you decide to go and liaise with anybody to get a contract like a sole source, that's his selling. That any job that I've come across that has been tendered, the contractors are allowed to price for the work. I may be blind on some aspect, but they are supposed to price for their work. They are priced including their cost overruns and everything as part of, if you're a bigger contractor, maybe your work's overheads may be bigger than that of maybe another young, small contractor, but who is also capable of doing the same work. So the lowest bidder on the day of the opening of the tender wins the contract. Whatever facilitation comes in is not part of the contract. It may be he's trying to do his own lobbying or trying to move through some corners to get some things done for him. But otherwise, where I sit and the document that I've come across the number of years that I've gone to tender opening and things, the contractors are supposed to individually price their project. I think if you are not...
You say they are, pardon the intervention, you say they are supposed to individually price their products and all of that and competitive bidding. But this bit about kickbacks and 10% and 15% and 20%, we have heard time without number. Are you saying there is no truth to that?
No, where I sit, I'm saying the document that I've come across, in fact, I've helped a lot of contractors to price for their project. So no contractor will go and price for a project not having factored his profit markup. No contractor will do that. If you decide to go and give money to somebody for maybe to speed up your processes of getting your certificate done on time, fine. But it is not something which is ever stated in any contract that when you finish this project, 10% of your contract must go to somebody for. So anybody who gets that information, at least once you have done that back door, they can get information to you so that you can peruse through and see whether indeed there's anything. You know, these are always peddled around. And sometimes you see the lay person or the layman just capitalize on that because the road is bad. I'm just watching your video, and you see, when you look at the roads and highways, when you look at the Ghana Highway Authority, the Urban Road Federal, they don't have a task force. Per the law, when the road is completed, last week I wanted to clear out something when they said, so when the road is done, how do we see potholes on the road immediately? There's something we call taking over and then handing over. When the first taking over is done, the contractor is liable to any defects that happens within the deferred liability period for a year. It means that the engineer comes to inspect the work according to the scope given to you to execute. When they are satisfied and there are few defects to be remedied, you are given a time for you to do that. And then maybe after a month, the engineer comes to inspect. After it has satisfied itself with the inspection, then the 1 year deferred liability now starts, after which you are paid your certificate. So there's no contractor who runs away from the site without being, who takes his money and runs away from the site, as is being alluded to. And then when that is done, my major aspect I've been trying to hammer on for some few weeks, I've had challenges from my engineers at the local government ministry and the assemblies. You see, when the road is done, like at Joy FM, and after satisfactory completion and handed over to government, now the government in that area is the local assembly. Now, if the local assembly sees that some constructions within that area, like culverts, like water channels, are being impeded, those things hasten the deterioration of the roads. So I'm always saying within this few time, I'm trying to champion that cause that when the road is done and handed over to government, the government has a rep in the locality, and the rep has a task force who are supposed to do the needful, ensuring that every permit that comes to the assembly or any building which is being cited within would have to factor that this building A, B, and C, is it going to undermine the road that has been handed over to the assembly? These are something that we don't normally look at, but it's very critical that we need to take that one into consideration. And when the assemblies also stand to be counted, we will all come at the end of the day and be excited with our construction of our road, because the external factors, in fact, greatly affect the road deterioration more than the road itself being constructed by a contractor or being supervised by an engineer.
Interesting thoughts. Let me now bring in Reverend Cyril Crabb. He is Executive Director, Accident Victims Support. From where you sit, Reverend Crabb, how do you analyze the situation? What do you make of it? The state of our roads at different levels, whether urban roads, rural roads, whether those that have been, and we have very few, those top-notch roads, and those that we see spread across our country, our urban areas. What do you make of the state of our roads, first off?
Thank you very much, and a good morning to yourself. Happy New Month, and good morning to your cherished viewers and listeners, and also to my boss, Engineer David Adontin, and also Engineer Dara Mahama. Good morning to you all. In fact, they've made a very, very excellent, expression of our roads, what is happening, but looking at the grounds from the point of view of the accident victim support. Traveling across the country, visiting accident victims and various individuals who were involved in these crashes, both those who died and those who had serious injuries or they have internal injuries to be living with. We use these roads, and when we get to where these roads are or where the serious accidents occur, we try to interact with the people, with the commuters, and a statement has been made about communities' attitude and then also the driver attitude. My engineer David Adontin has spoken so excellently about safety, what road safety is doing, which is indeed they are doing their best. But I'm coming from another point of view, that we ply these roads and we talk to these people. And indeed, if you are traveling from Accra, let's use just after Kaswa, there's a place they call Jalab also. You see a particular delay, or let me say traffic, going into the road to the Gomwa area. There's a particular place that causes a delay. And that delay is as a result of a pothole which has become a stream, if not a dam. And that place had killed a lot of people when there is no traffic on that stretch. In fact, it happens to us when we're traveling there. We didn't know. So the moment I saw it, slowed down, and I stepped into a stream, a very big dam on the road, in the middle of the road. So I parked and I asked the people around there. There's this, bring your name, a petrol shell. And just after the petrol shell is a ramp, not the community-made ramp, but a ramp there. And just after the ramp, there's this ditch, very big pothole. I parked and I asked the people there, and they said, and I quote them in P or in Fante, "Ya car, 1 year that." And I'm surprised. That is one. On the same stretch, when you are getting to the Gomwa Ewutu area, there's another potholes there on that stretch. Trust you me, you will meet 10,000 potholes on that stretch before you get to Ocherkum. And anywhere we get to, we ask questions. And
is it the same Ocherko where there was that recent ghastly accident claiming the lives of some 16 people that you are referencing?
Exactly. On that, I'm giving you that we were there this Friday to donate to the Ocherko victims. And we go there every now and then. And we keep on asking the people what can be done or what they are doing. And they keep on saying that these potholes have caused various accidents. Why? Because when the people realize that there is a pothole there, they try to swerve. Or sometimes they will even fall in it before they realize it. Their rims or their tire is busted or the rims are twisted. And these cars somersault several times. In fact, yesterday on the Takra district, I was called on a pothole that somebody was swerving. And then the car has to somersault and run into a river.
Wow.
That the people, yes, that's what I'm talking practical things. And I want to end with this, with what I'm saying, not to bother anybody. And my boss rightly said it, and that's why I have the authority to say it. That is why we need the dual carriage, which will completely end head-on collision on our roads. The potholes are a factor of the accidents that are happening. And this is the time that we should consider. Yes, Engineer Mahama ended by saying that proper maintenance culture has not been adhered to in this country. You see, we don't do it. And we see these things and you ask, you rightly said about the Iran place. It's been there for years. 3 years is years, many years. Not only that place, there are several places. When you come to Ablukuma, the stretch there is a place just after the Victory Bible Church, before you get to the traffic light. There are potholes there that when you get there, you have to swerve and you run into somebody's lane. And if the person is not careful enough, before you see, he has climbed the pavement. You see, that is not the only place. There are several of them I can mention to you. Come to Mala, just after the traffic light. Even on the overpass, there is a pothole there before you descend into the traffic to Akawe. The pothole there, if you don't take care, your car will somersault. But that is within. I'm talking about the traveling ones. Go to the places where they said it's a fine road, yet the accidents are occurring there. It is because it's not a dual carriage and the driver has not checked their attitude on these roads. Some of the drivers don't know these fine roads that at the end there are potholes, which are manholes there. And that is causing the accident. One life lost is one too many. And Ghana is bleeding. Ghana is bleeding. And Ghana is bleeding as a result of these potholes, as a result of their negligence towards maintenance. And I think the National Road Safety Authority, frankly, have done their best. It's about time we listen to them, particularly on the dual carriage, which I personally am championing. That because of the driver impatience, we must construct the dual carriage. That is where we are now. It's long overdue.
Right. So I think there is some consensus on the dual carriageway situation. One thing I'll say for certain is that for those who drive, I mean, if you don't drive personally, you may not see the effect because you sit in a vehicle and you see it go. You may not see the effect. But if you have to do maintenance and you listen to your car and you have to pay the bills, you see how bad the situation really is. Your car has to be going for maintenance more often than not. The cost factor and all of that, add that to the prices of fuel and you'd be in a very, very tricky spot. I know that for a fact. But since, gentlemen, we have a consensus on dual carriageways, my question then is, apart from the monetary factor, which we all acknowledge, how difficult would it be to have dual carriageways in most of these places that we speak of, those places where we are seeing lots of accidents, to ensure that cars are not having those head-on collisions, among others? I'll start with you, Engineer Adonte.
Well, I think that the problem of road infrastructure, potholes, dualization, and all that are critical matters that are on the desk for discussion at all times. We come up, the National Road Safety Authority, leading and raising the red flags, and then getting opinions, getting suggestions and input, so we are able to direct policy as far as the Ministry of Roads and Highways and the agencies are concerned. We have a lot of interaction. In fact, last week we met with the ministry and agencies, Ghana Highway Authority, Urban Roads and City Roads. What we do is that on quarterly basis, we meet and we bring to the attention some of the observations that we have made on our own and others that we receive from the general public, of course, including our good friend, Reverend Crab and his group, and others, NGOs, civil society, and so on, where we show them where the problem areas are, areas that require immediate intervention as far as safety is concerned, and all that. Now, they give us their word that they will go and deal with the situation. When the next quarter comes and we meet, we assess the performance of each agency. Now, we look at what we all agreed that we will do. Now, whether we have done it or not, and the challenges or the problems associated with why we have not done it, we discuss it. Now, usually, what comes up mostly is that lack of funds. We do not have the money enough to do all the problems we raise at the same time, which is natural, which we understand. But that also doesn't mean that the agencies are not doing anything. No. The problems are many. It cannot be fixed in one day. Now, this dualization we are championing. We are looking at certain sections of the road, not the entire road network, no, because it cannot be done. And even in the developed countries, you don't have every road dualized. But there are certain corridors that we are championing that we should have the dualization or dualized. Now, beyond that, there are other sections that wouldn't need dualization, but they may need certain kind of engineering measures that may require that perhaps some lanes are re-engineered. Some areas will bring in speed humps or traffic calming measures to minimize speed. Areas that will bring in traffic signals or traffic lights or street lights. Areas that will bring various engineering interventions. So we are able to monitor the performance of such interventions. Unfortunately, as I said, the problems are many. You cannot use a year or perhaps 2 years to deal with all of them at the same time. It's very difficult. And it's also capital intensive. So it takes a little time. So you look at the program. It is rather unfortunate that the pothole issue, which is coming up now, appears to be a bit more, pronounced in all the problems that we discussed. Now, if you move across the country, much as government is doing its best by reconstructing or maintenance, rehabilitation of most of the roads, and I think you have seen it yourself, there are still problems on various stretches and various roads across the country, most of which, as the Reverend said, are causing problems. We, at the National Road Safety Authority, we don't fix roads, but we bring to the attention of the agencies that have the mandate and the resources to fix the roads. That is the best we are able to do. And we constantly bring to the attention the need for them to be up and doing, to scale up their efforts in trying to get the road fixed. Now, if you always go and you get a response that it is planned, it is in our program, but there is no much money available for us to go and fix it, then that is where you end it. So I wouldn't say that efforts are not being made. Efforts are being made. But the resources to be able to deal with them once and for all, I think appear to be a bit difficult as a nation, which we are all aware. It's a matter of from where we come from, where we sit. I must say that the best usually we go out there to do is to talk to the individual, to talk to the road users, the motorists, that the pothole has not been fixed. The problem we are talking about is still there. And that does not mean that it's a warrant for us to go and kill ourselves. We still have to be careful. We still have to drive within the limits of the law and then the practices that will protect you and I. We have all these problems. Some have been there for years. And so it still doesn't mean, and we have used the roads constantly. We know where the potholes are. We know where the problem areas are. We're saying that when you get there, you maneuver. You try to drive as safe as possible. There are certain potholes that are patched over time, and I know that because I have also traveled a lot on the network. There were some potholes that I knew. Currently, if you pass around the Western region areas, Ashanti region, potholes are being patched. So it is not like nothing is being done. So I think that at a certain point in time, we also give some commendation to agencies for a certain achievement as far as the problem areas we are talking about are concerned. But we still have more to do. And so we will have to encourage ourselves and motivate ourselves that as we move forward, let us be up and doing. Let us rather be very responsible, quickly to address, especially if we want to be strategic, areas that, like Reverend is saying, that we go and do those things very quickly.
Right.
I am saying this because I am with the agency. I know the efforts they are making. I know how it is frustrating to all of us when there is a crash and it involves an action that we should have taken but we couldn't take. I think that is very frustrating sometimes. But somehow we manage in a way to let people appreciate. Let us go and put some sign there, some warning signs. Let us make people aware of the adverse implications if we fail to recognize the danger.
Right.
That matter, drive safely, as you said in your campaign. Let us drive safely. Let us stay alive. Let us arrive alive.
Right.
And so, building on the conscience of individuals, it is a reality. We see it. We know it is there. And so we should do everything we can to avoid it when it comes to using, in order not to fall victim of crashes.
Let's to wrap the conversation, gentlemen. Of course, we know of the economic constraints the country finds itself in and what impact that will have on dealing with these roads. Also, we can only envisage and hope that some of these stretches will see some maintenance work. But to cap off the conversation, each of you in about a minute, if you can manage it, just about a minute. What then should be our immediate steps in these areas? Like Engineer Adonting said, we know them. What should be the immediate steps? What should be the mid-term solutions? What should be our long-term forecast in terms of dealing with our road situation? As for the dualization, I'm sure it's one of those mid to long-term plans we can have. I'll start with you, Reverend Crabb. Gentlemen, please remember, you have just a minute. Reverend Crabb.
Yes, thank you very much. And as Engineer David Odonte has rightly said, advocacy is key. But to end from my point as the President for Accident Victim Support, I want to read a statement from Jan Todd, who is a UN world acclaimed or leading road safety advocate. I met him once in Sweden, and he had this statement to say briefly. He said, in a role as the United Nations Secretary General Special Envoy for Road Safety, I have been advocating for improved road safety and increased awareness of the magnitude of the issue. I am working to build sustained political commitment to address the situation through establishing strategic partnerships with governments, civil society, regional bodies, development banks, and the private sector. However, much remains to be undone. The impact of the fund will only reach its full potential if catalyst support from it is complemented by national level investment. What is he saying? That until the entire country, the agencies involved, now begin to think of investing into road safety, resourcing the road safety authority to now implement the plans that they have to make sure we mitigate this, we will still be here talking about potholes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Crabb. I'll come to you, Engineer Mahama. If you could please unmute for us and give us your final thoughts on that, Engineer Mahama.
Are you there?
I can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Okay. I'm saying I could have agreed with Engineer Adonting more. Last 3 weeks, I was on the motorway, and motorway has been a problem we have been talking about over the years. And as I was doing about 60 to 70, because I know the problem, a lot more vehicles were overtaken with the speed of light. So we know the problem. It doesn't mean that we have to be overspeeding on our roads. Almost all the accidents we have around, if you are driving within the limit, you'll be able to have what we call the reaction time. So passengers who are in the vehicle should also be vocal when they see their drivers are doing the overspeeding, because your life matter. It's an individual life before collective. So you should be able to tell the driver to limit the speed. Number 2, any vehicle that bends on the road, that place becomes a source of a pothole generation because the bitumen has been bent. In the same vein, in as much as we try to do demonstrations across the country for our misgivings or anything, no one should be allowed to burn a tire, a vehicle tire on the road or any other combustible material. Because when you do that, the asphalt loses its viscosity, and those are the areas that will start to see pothole being generated if the road is a very good one. So police or the task forces or whatever, security services must take note that anybody can do anything, but nobody should be allowed to burn a tire or any combustible material on our roads. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Engineer Mahama. Let me get to Engineer Adonting. You have the final minute, please.
Thank you. I think, first of all, let me commend your organization, multimedia, JoyNews, and all that for bringing up some issues of this nature for us to share our ideas and opinions. It's very good. I must say that is the work you must do to see Ghana move forward. Now, where I sit, I will continue my advocacy. I'll talk about it. I'll advise. I'll give the policy direction. And I'll always keep reminding the agencies responsible for them to do their work accordingly. Now, beyond that, if you're an agency that you have a role to play on all these discussions, listen to us.
Right.
Move very quickly and do what is needful. For example, we have talked about the road where sometimes you find a vehicle broken down and will stay at a particular place for months or weeks repairing. Now, the more you pour all these bitumens and the fuel on the road, it reacts with the bitumen and it creates a problem and a pothole for us. I think that we know the problem. So we must all be up and doing. We must be responsible. We must do our part of the story to take off the adverse implications. I will say, finally, that we from the National Road Safety Authority will do our best. We will guide people, we will educate people, but the rest of it all lies between you and I. How we take these messages and how we react to them. I must say, stay alive to everybody and let us avoid certain risks that will take our lives and the lives of others. Potholes will not take our lives. And so we should not allow potholes to kill us.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Engineer Adonting. So joining us for this conversation, we've had Engineer David Osafo Adonting, Acting Director General of the National Road Safety Authority. We've had Reverend Cyril Crabbe, Executive Director, Accident Victims Support, together with Engineer Abdullahi Mahama, a road and building consultant. All of them have shared their thoughts. It's said that we're very good at talking in this country. Now remains the actual work, bringing to bear what we've been talking about so that we can stay safe on our roads and stay alive as well. We're grateful to those who joined us for this conversation. But there's more coming your way on staying alive on our roads. We call it Drive Safe. That segment will be up next after the break. But as I go and sip some water, you know what I'm going to be having? Awake purified drinking water. And here's why. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. And guess what? We have the perfect sizes as well. Whether you're thinking of the kids 330 ml, you can easily fit it into their backpacks or lunch boxes. 500 ml, 750 milliliters, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more, like yours truly. But if you want something bigger for your office or for your home, how about you try Awake's 19-liter jar bottles? Perfect for your home or your office. So all you have to do now, sit back, chill, and enjoy some Awake Purified Drinking Water. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Also remember that every time you make a purchase of Awake Purified Drinking Water, you are donating to the National Cardiothoracic Center, where those with heart conditions and others who cannot pay for them actually can source some funding. Awake is another quality product from Casapreco Company Limited. If you'd like to purchase in bulk, this is the number to call: 0262 351 251. 0262 351 251. This advert is FDA approved. We take a breather now and return with Drive Safe. Do stay.